Welcome to a football show Monday edition. That is Paul Kaharski. I am Braden Gall, and it is not a Victory Monday, as those are very few and far between. Titans fall on the final play of the game against the Houston Texans on Sunday afternoon at Old Nissan Stadium. Not too many more of those games. We are brought to you by Sinkers Beverages, and that is a fresh and rested and ready to go Paul Kaharski, paulkaharski.com. I am the opposite of all of those things, and my name is Braden Gall. Good to see you, PK. How are you, sir?
I'm well. What took you to where you were?
So I was out of town for the weekend. Got back into town about 12 minutes ago. Back to the house about 12 minutes ago. It was my daughter's birthday, and we went to Manhattan. She wanted to go to New York. We have family in the area, so a bunch of my cousins got together with their kids, building on some momentum of the summertime, trying to keep people together in the family, PK. You don't see each other a lot. Yeah. And so, the next generation's trying to build on the previous generation, and got a bunch of the cousins together. Got to go. There's about 15 of us went to the Packers-Giants game yesterday at 1 o'clock in questionable weather for folks from Tennessee. But we had a great time. It was my daughter's first. She got to do a bunch of things like Empire State Building, Central Park, like a lot of the touristy cliche stuff, Times Square, New York Public Library, Rockefeller Center, St. Patrick's Cathedral, all that stuff, et cetera, et cetera. So, and then we stayed in Jersey on Saturday night. We stayed out in Bedminster area.
God's country.
So way out in the farmlands. Reminds me a lot of Tennessee, actually. So out there in Jersey. So great trip by the daughter. She's a great traveler. Very proud of her. And happy birthday to her. So out of town for the weekend. No more traveling the rest of the season, PK. I'm here to stay the rest of the way. So,
well, next week I'm traveling. So
perfect timing.
Yeah.
Perfect timing. All right. So we got a lot of stuff to discuss today on the show. I want to talk through my review of MetLife Stadium. I have so much to say about that stadium, and I hope we avoid some of the issues here at new Nissan Stadium. I think we have plans to try to avoid some of those issues, and I think that's going to be the goal, but never was it more crystallized in my brain and heart as a football fan and human being and American that is the wrong way to build a stadium, and I think the Titans are doing it differently, but we'll discuss that a little bit later on. I'll give you my review of that. J.C. Latham, roster depth, conservative coaching decisions, Jeffery Simmons and other players voicing frustration, Cam Ward's offense being awful, and then Cam Ward doing something great in the most important moment, but yet still not enough to get to. So, PK, let me just back up real fast. And I know you and I have had conversations with each other and with listeners, and if you want to get into the comment section, please do so. Spiegel, good to see you. Please rate, review, subscribe, thumbs up on YouTube, notifications, share on Twitter. Please ask some questions in the comments. We'd love to get involved with all of you out there. If we're debating Kinsey or Restrepo, this roster sucks. I think QC that will be the question we will be asking.
Yeah.
Or
you're getting into the depth area of the roster. Yeah. Obviously, you're not talking about the top of the roster.
Right. So we'll get to that. I just want to add, I know we've talked about and I know maybe fans maybe they put an outsized influence on this. I don't know. Maybe you correct me if I'm wrong on that. I do think fans sometimes think of locker room camaraderie, and they think of what was the pulse like in the locker room after the game? Were players happy or frustrated or not happy enough? Are they not upset enough? I think a lot of that is overblown most of the time. Culture and standard, as they like to call it, as Borgonzi likes to call it, is built over time from young players and old players and people of different backgrounds that bring a communication style and psychology and leadership. Do you think anything has changed, though, with this team through entering a season where the offseason was about camaraderie and teamwork and competition and bonding, and then we've changed coaches and they continue to find new ways to lose games, and now we're starting to see some players at least hint at frustration in all of this? Is that the thing that's changed? Is all that is just the frustration?
Well, I mean, I think it's crazy for guys not to talk about frustration and what they're talking about. Then the prudish in the media or in the fan community to talk about the locker room fracturing. First off, I think guys aren't human if there's not some level of fracture, at least behind the scenes. I mean, The defense has played some reasonable games and deserve better. It's clear they're doing a better job with at least some of the time, and they've suffered more in-season losses than the offense has. Certainly, the trade Mark took away Brownlee, McCreary, Draymond Jones. The injury stuff took away L'Jarius Sneed. Say what you will about what he was bringing them, but those are 4 starting players that have disappeared from the defense. Can you name any starting players that have disappeared from the offense? Now Calvin Ridley's gone. So there's one, but it hasn't hurt the offense in the same way. It was an offensive coach. It is an offensive coach. This thing was supposed to be based around the offense getting better. Offense probably had more attention paid to it in the off season, and you haven't seen the fruits of that. I don't think somebody on the inside saying something, addressing some of that is fractious. Simmons touched on some of that stuff. But I think you can softly call out the offense without fracturing the locker room.
Right. Well, and Cam Ward had a moment, I think, early in the year where he was kind of frustrated with it, and Simmons was like, "Well, we don't do that. We don't call out the whole team." This is Football Reference. I just pulled it up just randomly as a totally anecdotal moment. How many negative expected games has the offense delivered, would you guess, this season? So in the 10 games, how many times has the offense had a negative expected points according to Pro Football Reference? Would you
talking negative EPA?
Negative expected points. This is the Pro Football. This is Pro Football Reference. So I don't think it's if that's the same as EPA, then yes, but it's expected points.
I'd say almost all of them, probably all but Arizona wasn't. Ooh. Because they had some breaks. So all but Arizona, I would say.
Arizona was the second most expected points by the offense, negative 1.3. The Colts game, 4.2. Again, very low stress offensive snaps in that game, just for the record. But that was Cam Ward's best game, 4.1, 4.2 expected points. How many games did the defense deliver positive expected points? So same question, but for the defense.
3, maybe 4.
4 times. So based on that very simplistic measure, you had the defense contributing positive points 4 times and the offense contributing positive points 1 time. I'm not saying it's the end-all be-all for every player and every evaluation, but in theory, the defense has been significantly more productive on eyeball test and on metric test.
Yeah, they're both bad, but the defense has been less bad more often.
So that leads to a bunch of questions that are kind of already popping up in the comments, which is just essentially, do we think it's a positive? Do we think it's a negative that Simmons says what he says, that Arden Key says what he says, that players are maybe alluding to leadership, that Simmons is willing to say the things today that he hasn't been able to say, or maybe not willing to say or didn't want to say previously? I have a couple of different opinions in the comments here. Do you think it is a net positive? Do you think it's a smart move? Do you think it's a sign of maturity and growth? Do we think it's a sign of not lack of leadership? Because Ed says Simmons' leadership talk should be reconsidered after his comments. Lack of leadership when you air dirty laundry and call out specific players.
I think that's being soft. Here's what Simmons said. I mean, say what we want, but I mean 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. We've got to be better. We're tired of sugarcoating it. I'm tired of sugarcoating it. We need to be better, especially at home. Can't have that many false starts. We need to be better. I mean, we can't keep sitting up here saying the same thing, trying to sugarcoat it for the media, for anybody. And I said it in the locker room. I said it on the field. I'm tired of sugarcoating it. I mean, we need to be better. At the end of the day, we need to protect Cam better. Simple. There are only 3 sacks of Ward, by the way. So look, he's saying too many 3 and outs, which is true. 5 out of 10 possessions, 3 and outs. And that we can't have that many false starts. True. They had 5 false starts in a game. What's he saying there? It's not honest. I mean, everybody's saying the same thing, that somebody in the locker room has the balls to say it, and that's the best player on the team. I have zero issue with that. I don't understand why fans of all people think it's a code of ethics for guys to be silent on obvious stuff. In the old days, guys would say shit about other guys and coaches when things were a mess. And somehow people think it's a good thing for the 1-9 Titans to pretend like nothing's wrong. I don't understand that. I wish more guys would come out. The other thing is, though, you need guys who have some credibility, and this team only has a couple guys with the credibility. For a guy like Skoronski or Simmons, what's the list beyond there, who could come out and say, hey, this is bullshit, what's going on?
Yeah.
You know, in the old days, you know, somebody like Kevin Moai or David Thornton or Chris Hope, that free agent class, you know, had the power to come out and say it. Javon Curse could say, Blaine Bishop could say certain things and not worry about management, not worry about denting their reputation.
I don't necessarily like fully disagree with Ed. Ed in the comments is the one of the few that's sort of against this. Says a soundbite doesn't make you a good leader. Do we want captains calling out players in the public? So here's the
call
thing.
out players. He didn't name names. Called out issues.
I think it is about the context of the situation. Number one, there are certain guys that can't say what Jeffery Simmons says, and there's certain guys that can. That's number one. Simmons is one of the few that can. I think at this stage of the season, I think it's different than at other times. When you are going through extraordinary hardship, it's clear. And I think the other most important part of this is, are these all the things that you have said to someone's face? I think this is the same with media treating the people it covers the same way. There's nothing that you and I would say on this show that we wouldn't say to one of the players or coaches' faces. And then we have to take that. We got to wear that. That's part of the job. So I think as long as Jeffery Simmons is doing all the other things, right, which is supporting his teammates, leading by example, showing up when he needs to, doing his job, and then also saying all this stuff, maybe in more detail or maybe more personally in private, it is a calculated measure to go. I don't want to say going public with it. It's the
next
thing.
Step. It's a step.
Yeah, it's
a different tactic.
But it's the thing we all see. It's no different than like parenting a child. You have to try all the things first. And if you've done all that and you get to the point where, yes, I need to raise my voice finally, then maybe that gets through. But like, I think it's all about that context. And I do think that when you reach a point where the defense has been, I think a lot of the stuff is important to note, like you've done. Who's lost players at the deadline? Who continues to increase, like who of the rookie class? The two highest drafted rookies on defense haven't had the chance to play a whole lot this season at all. They're still doing their job. And it's not anything he probably hasn't said to Cam or anybody else on the offense in private. If he hasn't done that, then I have a problem with it, right? Like if he doesn't have a relationship with any of these guys and he's not saying anything to these guys in private, then there's a problem here. Then you need to have an adult conversation with the other person first. But at some point you get to the frustration level where you do need to you escalate to the next step. And I don't have a problem with it. I think if a bunch of other players on offense come out and are offended by it and they're not willing to talk about it behind closed doors with Jeffrey, they're going to do it in public, then you can start to talk about the locker room being fractured or not on the same page or whatever other language you want to use.
I mean, let's go two directions from here. One, what is the locker room staying together for? What principle or fortitude or identity compels them to stay together? Like what? Like I don't know. People
money
see something. Yeah, I mean, you protect your. You want to be a good guy and seen as a good guy, but yeah, I think I wouldn't have a problem with some of them saying this bullshit in here. Callahan was bad. McCoy's bad. We're sitting here at on 4th and 2s, and we keep doing the weakest thing. We've got no courage. I would respect a player who comes out and says that, even though it's above their pay grade. But nobody's saying it except the media. So I think it's a cowardly team, and I think it's hard for 53 men to sit there and be team players on a team that shows no courage and has terrible leadership from the coaching chair. I would be going to Mike Borgonzi for sure with that. But if I felt like the GM was in trouble, I would be saying it publicly if I was a good player. Yeah. If I was a good leader.
I think, and I know some of you in the comments are like, is this a story? And it's like, well, I think it leads to stuff. Like it builds to something. Number one, it paints a picture of who Jeffery Simmons is at a critical period of time in his career as a Titan. They've got to decide whether or not they're going to give him a ton of money or not. And what I think is interesting, I think what you just said, which is that there is a complete lack of leadership at the top of the organization right now. And so Jeffery Simmons is kind of being probably not of his own liking or doing, being thrust into that role to some degree. Because right now it feels pretty discombobulated in general. And that happens when you fire a coach. It's not, it is what it is. And so I don't think it's necessarily a huge story, just Jeffery Simmons saying something. I think it's about the escalatory process we're on here. And if other players are saying, Arden Key or other folks saying, like, I don't know if we have the right leaders, or I'm paraphrasing. You can kind of explain what you.
Yeah, let's get to this part. Let's get to this.
I think there's another layer to it all.
So Arden Key said this in the locker room Sunday, and then Hottie Ward was at the podium on Monday as one of the two players. I asked Ward to pick up on what Key had said. Key had said, it's not like it used to be in terms of the young guys soaking up the advice or the guidance of the veterans. Now, that's a concerning thing. Now, the Titans don't have a great deal of veterans who are like follow me guys, but enough. I don't know if Arden Key is a follow me guy, but he came back and he was productive yesterday. Simmons is definitely a follow me guy. Amani Hooker, you should follow Amani Hooker. You should follow Peter Skoronski. Condre Diggs was there. He's a guy that does things the right way. You should have followed him. There are enough, maybe not enough, but you've got a guy virtually in every group. And so we were talking in the press room after Ward gave a very good follow-up on this. He said, you cannot follow, but then you're going to face adversity and you're kind of going to face it alone. And it's harder that route. We all came out of there and kind of had a conversation like, who is he talking about first and foremost? J.C. Latham was who we said universally. Now, J.C. Latham did not play a horrible game between the whistles. He gave up one pressure against a very good pass rushing Texans.
And he has been doing that fairly consistently.
But he false started 3 times and he had a hold. And then
also
after the game, just very nonchalantly kind of dismissing it. Well, we overcame most of them. It didn't hurt us that badly. Just no emotion in his voice. Didn't seem like he gives a shit. And J.C. Latham not giving a shit is a problem for this team. He's 7th pick overall in the draft. He was tabbed by Bill Callahan as the guy. He needs to be a guy for this team going forward. And if he can play well enough, but he's also got to be invested in it. Like these other top guys are invested in it. Next coach has to get him to invest in it. Otherwise, they've got a problem. And he's not the only guy they're talking about, but I think it's certainly fair to presume he's one of the guys they're talking about.
Well, and this is going to be a year where, to your point about human beings, like human beings are going to, if you don't feel something and you're in the locker room, you probably don't really belong on a championship caliber football team. And so for guys to be upset and frustrated and have emotion about it, I think that's totally normal. I would never kill a guy for that at all. A coach, a GM, a owner, a fan, a player. Nobody should get in trouble for or be aired out for caring too much. There is an element of not caring enough. And that can happen in moments like this. And you want to see players. I'm okay with the emotion of that. You want to see players get emotional because the guys who are just too cool about everything. And I don't mean like easygoing. I mean, this doesn't piss you off and it has to piss you off. And so I don't know. I don't know what the next step in the escalatory process is because clearly there is a void at the top. And it's not that Cam Ward can't get there. I think Cam Ward absolutely has the temperament, the makeup, the personality, and the drive and the work ethic to become that voice. You mentioned Skoronski, but it's just very hard for first-year players to take on that role so quickly when there's no coaching staff and a first-year general manager and like all this stuff that's going on. And so I don't know.
Let's clean up this a little bit. Bustin' Diamond says Snead, Latham, Sweat. Latham, Sweat, certainly. Snead's not a young guy. Snead's an established guy. Snead should have been on the side of that for guys to follow. And I think, Snead's injury limited him and had some give up in him. But he's not who they're talking about. They're talking about young guys. Snead is older than he might be older than Jeff. I don't know. And why should Ward have to answer for what Simmons said. I don't know if he's talking about Cam Ward, Ed Henry saying, or Hottie Ward. But look, if a guy makes an important statement, you don't have to answer for what he says. Like I asked Hottie Ward today, hey, here's what Arden Key said. How do you feel about that? And he said, I feel the same about that. So that's not putting pressure on him. He's not put in an awkward situation, and he's a grown man.
If
he feels differently, if he feels differently, say, I don't feel that. That's interesting that Arden feels that way. I don't feel that way. Right. He's not under some immense pressure.
That's an interesting pose.
He's also a grown man who can answer for you. Making it like these guys are so feeble-minded. If they're that feeble-minded, well, that's a telling thing that we need to find out about them too.
Right. It's good to learn about all these different elements. I mean, this is ultimately, there's lots of moments in your life where you will figure out who you are and find out what you're made of. And this is clearly when you are 1-9 after having the worst record in the NFL last year, on pace to have the worst record in the NFL this year. There might be plenty of players in a locker room that don't like the former coach, but you also have to kind of wear it a little bit that you got your coach fired to some degree. And I know that not everybody gets along and not everybody has a perfect relationship, but like you have to have some pride in the fact that, well, you're on the team that got the coach fired, right? Was what I'm saying. So, and now you're figuring out ways to lose these games in new and different and creative ways every single time. Is it great? And we can kind of move on to the Cam Ward of it all here. Is it awesome and great that Cam Ward figured out a way to make critical plays in the most of critical moments and get the game tied at home? Of course it is. And should the defense be on blast or be aired out for having giving up a 3rd and 16 when all you have to do is get off the field one time? Of course the defense carries some blame as well. But by and large, the rest of the game, the offense was terrible. And the rest of the game, the defense was pretty good. And so I guess, again, I can look at the Cam Ward drive and I can go, there it was, finally. I saw it a little bit in the Arizona game as given to them with the most outlandish and improbable moments that you've ever seen in a comeback victory. And that is honestly, I still don't think people realize that they should be 0-10. Like, really, they should be 0-10. And so, sure, it's great that we saw that from him against the Colts in blowout situations. This is the first time I looked at it and said, this was a real football situation in a real tight game against a pretty good defense where you did the thing you're supposed to do when you're the number 1 overall pick. And fans can be excited about that. That's fine. But the rest of the game was awful.
And even on the 39-yard throw to Chig, which was a great throw, great play. Where'd that been all game? There's another guy running right there. He's got
a little strangely schemed. Yeah.
I don't think it's strangely schemed. I think somebody messed it up.
Also true.
I don't know who that second guy was over there, but all he's doing is drawing more people over there and making it harder. So it was a much better play than it needed to be, probably because there were more bodies over there. But very Titan-esque to have even the big play of the day, which was an excellent play, be harder than it had to be because somebody screwed something up.
It is one of his best, like, in pocket, downfield, outside the number throws of the entire season.
Yeah, it's a terrific play.
And just like the throw to Ridley against Arizona was one of the best throws of the entire season. So again, it's not that there's not things that fans can grab onto here, but and we can, again, this also pivots into the Mike McCoy of it all, which is I don't think he is providing any service to the team in any way. He's not making players better between Monday and Friday and Saturday. He's not making decisions that we were at the Giants game and we are all watching the Giants go down the field at the end of the game with a chance to maybe tie it and send it into overtime. And we're all looking around, Packers and Giants fans together, agreeing, obviously they're going to go for 2. What do they have to lose? It's an interim coach on a bad team trying to have a nice moment. You know what I mean? Like, why are you not going for it?
Well,
and everybody agreed, Packers and Giants fans together. Of course they're going to go for it here. Now Jameis Winston threw an interception, and all right, but what do you?
Titans would have lost 16-14. The 2-point conversion, it was too early for that to matter. That was not my objection. But the fourth,
no. I'm just saying. Go be aggressive.
The mentality.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
This 4th and 2 from the 28. I mean, there was no consideration given to go for it. He talks about game flow and everything. Tehran today, asked a follow up after McCoy was sick of me. Like, well, what about dictating the game flow instead of kind of accepting the game flow? Yeah, he's just got no game feel. He's got no game feel for what the game is in 2025. That's for damn sure. And this 4th and 2 and the willingness to just kick the field goal and think that 6 points is something, like, it just doesn't get the idea that in one play, this 6-point lead that you've mounted with pretty much carrying the play of the game, to use kind of soccer language, would be gone in one play or one series. And sure enough, it was gone in one series. So good for you. You've carried the play through a half and a series, and then it's gone in one series for the other team. What have you achieved in effect there? Have you impressed ownership and management by carrying play for that? Do you understand there's no marker for that? And then let's talk for a second to fans who think I got a lot of this last night and overnight, that he's in on a tank. Like, his assignment is to lose these games and make those decisions to help the Titans get the top pick in the draft. Now, Mike McCoy was out of the league for, I think, 4 years before he came back in with the Jaguars. This is his last friggin' chance to do anything to get another job in the league. Why, given however many games he's going to have here as an interim, would he go along with an idea that, yes, I'm going to help ensure that we lose games? What is the personal benefit to him? Eternal thanks from Amy Adams Strunk, Chad Brinker, and Mike Borgonzi? The loss of respect from the last locker room he'll ever have control of? Laughter from fans and condemnation from media? How is this benefit him?
What was the honest question? And I'm not trying to I don't want names here, because I can already guess who would be the biggest smartass in the press box. I want to know what the press box reaction was on that sequence when they run the ball on 3rd and 3. They pick up 1 yard.
And that run, by the way, felt like it was setting up the field goal.
And then they kick the field goal. Like, is there because I've been in that press box where people are just like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah.
Like,
we're all groaning.
Right,
we're all looking for the 4th down bot. The 4th down bot, by the way, it didn't post on Twitter, but I talked to the guy who over the next 20 minutes, I tracked him down and he sent me a link. I've now got access to the 4th down bot's entire catalog, so I can look at every 4th down. And it didn't offer a recommendation on that play, so it didn't think it was a big deal. So this is more a Titans issue than a analytics issue. But all of us groaned and just thought, laughing at him. I mean, fans are just tired. But I mean, I think he's a laughing stock.
Well, so let me ask this, because I know you've been on that for a long time. I want to know, and this is purely for the sake of the conversation, because I'm actually interested in this. I don't disagree with any of your points on McCoy. I don't think it benefits the team from playing it safe. Maybe you actually do have, based on metrics, 1% a percentage point better of winning the game or whatever. I don't care about that, actually. What I'm curious is, like, what's the adverse effect on the players long term from having McCoy in the situation? And I'm not asking that to be dismissive of the entire topic, but I really want to know what you think. Like, is there a chance that you are missing opportunities to allow Cam Ward to learn something, to allow the young rookies on offense to learn something? Are you actually going to hurt the development by being this conservative as a head coach, where you literally feel like you're just there to keep a visor warm, for lack of a better phrase?
Yeah. I mean, it seems like to me, here's what I wrote at the end of my piece out of the game. Management should give the players something to be inspired about by instructing McCoy, who didn't inherit much, to tell his team this week that it's changing mindset. The next go for it moment the Titans face, they're going for it. The one after that, too. The tiptoeing ends next week. And then I said in parentheses, I thought a funny ending might be good. There's no way he's changing his stripes. There's no way. And quite frankly, if he went for it, if he did that, if he did what I'm saying there would be like a standing ovation just for going for it on a 4th and 2. That would change the tone for a minute. And if they got stuffed, For a 3-yard loss, I am raising my hand here. I don't have a Bible handy. I would not give him crap for it.
Yeah.
I would applaud it.
Yeah.
And I would tell him to do it on the next 4th and 10.
Well, and I know this is obviously not comparable, but it's one of the things that I'm starting to teach my daughters when they play soccer. My youngest is the starting striker on her club team, and one of the reasons she is any good, because she's not the biggest, she's not the strongest, she's a little undersized, she's always playing up, and the thing that I tell her, and I try not to put too much in their head for a game, right? It's just kind of give them one thing and like let them go with it. And I say to her, I go, dictate the game. Make them react to you, because she's a little tornado at the top of the formation. She is pressing on their defensive players. It's 7v7, so it's not a big deal. But like she goes back to the build-out line as soon as the keeper gets it, and she attacks the ball no matter where that keeper goes, because it's what she does really well, and it's what she knows how to do. And you can see in the first 5 minutes of every game, these defensive players are going, okay, we're going to have to deal with this all game. And so I kind of tell her, and in not so many words, I say, make them react to you. Like, dictate the pace, make them react to you. You have the plan. Don't let them do their plan. And that's kind of all I do. I kind of get out of the way and then I let her go. But it's such a simple concept. Like, even a 7-year-old understands it. If I keep on the pedal, eventually you're either going to get annoyed and make a mistake, you're going to get tired and you're going to make a mistake, or I'm just going to wear you down. And so I do think there's a lot of that where you have the plan. You go execute the plan here. If you're Cam Ward, go do the thing. Like, you got to stop letting the other people dictate everything to you.
Yeah, it's like the Gunnar Helm conversation. It's been long going. Or, well, we want to get it to them, but they take it away. Well, now you do something again. You're the actor. They're the reactor. All right. If they've reacted well to your initial intention to get the ball to Gunnar Helm, do something else. Teams dictate all the time getting the ball to their top people. Now, sometimes their top people get taken away in a really good game plan, but they come back the next week against the next team and find a way. Now, Gunnar Helm has shown himself to be pretty damn effective. He caught a pass in this game against, really tight covered. Determine that you're getting him the ball and go do it. And odds are, we know Ridley's out, DK chest contusion, don't know.
Yeah.
But if you have a chance to, if you're forced now, I don't think you should be reliant on Kinsey. We're going to get into Kinsey, Prochet, or Restrepo, or the unknown guy from the practice squad who's 6'3" and can at least give you some size. If you're going to have to play snaps from one of those guys as a third or fourth receiver, you got to throw Chig or Helm the ball.
Yeah.
Dictate it.
Ed, by the way, is on team Jeffery Simmons is not a good leader for voicing his opinions about the offense. I'm adding the context here. Ed says, well, do you tell your daughter if the goalie lets up 6 goals that it's her fault, that you should tell everyone about it? I like that. Thank you, Ed. There's been a couple of questions in here about get everybody out there. Like, get everybody out there and let's let the cream rise to the top here.
No, but Kinsey was out there.
Well,
Kinsey was out there. It was necessity, and it was shit.
Let me build it up here a little bit, okay? Sinkers Beverages, for those of you who need a drink right now, make sure you check out the 5-time liquor store of the year. You can search Uber Eats and have them deliver the booze directly to your house. So search Sinkers on Uber, and they'll deliver the booze to you. No big deal there. They've got a fantastically awesome wine collection with experts that will help you make the right choice for your budget, of course. They've got great allocations every year around this time of the year. If you're an in-crowd member, you get to put in fancy requests for the best, most rarest of choices. We'll see what you get. So hopefully you're a member of the in-crowd there. And a walk-in beer fridge that is award-winning as well. 2-time craft beer fridge, which allows me to, in a piece of paper on a digital show, Paul.
Nice looking piece of paper.
A piece of paper with QR codes.
Pull it back.
So this is our pamphlet that'll be out there at all ML Rose locations and all breweries. Nashville,
too close.
An improbable history.
There you go.
It's a story about old Nashville. It's a story about craft beer and the history of our city. It's about growth. It's about the great characters that came from all over the city, many from your neck of the woods in the Northeast, to come create a craft beer scene out of thin air. It's about zoning and tax laws. It's about concerts and music and food. It's about all kinds of fun stuff that I did not expect to get into when I started telling the story. The first 3 episodes are out now. That's Nashville with an M. And the next 4 episodes will drop this week, probably tomorrow. And it's about a lot of different things. It's about drinking habits. I talked to an evolutionary scientist, PK, about the value of socializing around small amounts of beer and alcohol and how much civilization exists because of it. Maybe the offense and the defense in the Titans locker room need to have a couple beers from Sinkers and just, bond a little bit over this.
I don't care if the offense and the defense get along. Historically, there have been teams where the offense and defense are 2 different things, and they were great.
It's a joke in an ad read, PK.
I understand, but people seem to be very concerned about that, some of them.
Anyway, Nashville with an M. Nashville with an M, Sinkers Beverages, and special thanks, of course, to a sponsor on a lot of other shows, ML Rose, for being a part of this. But I don't disagree with you. I was tongue in cheek in the ad there.
I got you.
So there you go. Just Jeffery Simmons and JC Latham, just go have a beer with each other, okay? Just down-regulate the prefrontal cortex. You'll trust each other a little bit more. You'll be more creative. You'll bond. And then maybe you win some football games. I'm just saying. These are the things you learn when you listen to the Nashville craft beer documentary. Okay. All right. So the depth on the roster is interesting. We've already had a few people say this in the comments, like, hey, let's just throw everybody out there. And I'm not poking fun at that concept, which is, hey, everybody, and I think it was Austin that said it, just like everybody put as many people out there as you can. Let's see let's say who can hang, right? Like, what do we have to lose at this point? And I don't necessarily disagree with that general point. But the idea, I think your complaint around Mason Kinsey and around the roster is not about like their strategy from here on out the rest of the season to decide and figure out what they've got. It's more about the fact that they don't have better options, right?
Mason Kinsey first got here in 2020. Yeah, Mason Kinsey's an amazing story. I mean, Mason Kinsey got himself an NFL pension. He's been around so long. This does not happen. But there's a reason there are no Mason Kinsey stories in the NFL, because you don't last that long on a practice squad. So Mason Kinsey should have had 2 years. Now, they really like Mason Kinsey. He does a lot of things at practice. And I'm not saying the last guy on your practice squad can't be a terrific practice player, but you got to keep the eye on the prize. The goal is for a practice squad player to ultimately be a guy who can help you on a Sunday. And if he's called up, can help you on a Sunday. And Mason Kinsey, look, the first ball from Cam Ward was not well thrown, and Kinsey got turned around. But you have to have a guy who is more athletically inclined and graceful and can maybe make something happen on that ball. Ward didn't do his part, but, Kinsey's got to be able to try to do something with that, not look that bad. And then there's another one, and people are making it like it would have been a ridiculous catch. It was not. It was a drop. The ball was a little bit in front of him. He reached out. He got a hand on it, or should have. He absolutely should have caught it. Now, he made another catch earlier than that. That is unacceptable that he is not in better position to make those 2 plays. One of them has to be a catch. One of them has to look better than it looked by a professional football player. And the reason that they don't have that is because they've fallen in love with Mason Kinsey and failed year after year after year for 6 years to get a guy who's incrementally better than Mason Kinsey, which is what you do on the practice squad. We love this guy. He's got a lot of grit. He's helped us on special teams. He's terrific as a receiver and a safety on practice squad, playing on the scout team. But we need a guy who's an inch taller and maybe has the same grit and whatever. And then the next year, a half an inch taller and has the same grit and maybe has some ceiling. And the next year, if that guy doesn't show, all right, well, maybe that guy's a 2-year guy and he does. But we can have a we'll take a little hit on the practice squad at the scout team in hopes of finding a guy who, if we get 6 deep on a Sunday and we need a catch made, is going to make that catch for us. And he's a slot guy, but he ends up playing outside because we're down 3 receivers, and damn it, this guy is going to get a play made. And we didn't see that happen. It could have helped lose that game, change the timing of a big series, et cetera, et cetera. They're not concerned enough with stuff like that. And this is 3 regimes worth of people that love Mason Kinsey.
So Andrew says Mason Kinsey isn't relevant to why we're bad. I think Paul just articulated that to some degree, that it's not
relevant to why they lost that game yesterday.
He is, but it's also more about the failure to develop, like Bryce Oliver. Now, in theory, Bryce Oliver's supposed to be that guy in this situation in that game yesterday.
Yes, should have been Bryce Oliver.
And he is what you're talking about, which is a guy you find and you develop him, and as he grows from year 1 to year 2 to year 3, he becomes a better player worthy of getting more opportunity. That is the goal. And it doesn't feel like, if we look at the cornerback room, for example,
where are those guys?
Where are the guys that you have taken? Now, is Marcus Harris going to be that guy? I mean, that might be their claim. That might be what they're expecting. They tried it at linebacker. Linebacker's a perfect situation. How many Chance Campbells or Gibbons, or they're all the same guy. They tried all of those guys at middle linebacker, and none of them worked. Now guess what? They went and drafted a green dot guy in the 3rd round, and he's got 1,000 tackles.
Yeah, it looks pretty good
in his 2nd season because they, wait for it, developed him
and invested something of value in him. Back end guys, you've got to develop, and you've got to churn, and you've got to get better. And they just seem like perfectly content. Mason Kinsey could be there for 10 years.
And
not acceptable.
So here's the question. Here's what I was going to ask you about Restrepo, because I don't think it's like the obvious thing here, and I don't know why people don't get this. Like, if the experts about football on the organization think that Restrepo is better, then he'd be playing.
Restrepo's not better than Kinsey. That's
right.
part of the problem.
Right.
I'm saying you got to get better than Kinsey, and he's not better than Kinsey.
How many do you remember? And this is just like, I know this is off the top of your head here, but the thing that bounces around in my head is like, what happens hypothetically? We're all wrong. Everybody inside the Titans organization is wrong. Everybody in the media is wrong. Xavier Restrepo is actually a starting NFL player, and he's just been miscast and misrepresented, and we misunderstood him and we misevaluated him. And like, how many times in your career do you remember a player getting like completely overlooked 5, 6, 7 guys deep into a season, finally getting his chance and turning into a starting NFL player?
I mean, maybe there's been one somewhere along the line, but I can't remember him. And if he comes out and has 3 catches for 50 yards on Sunday, does that mean that and I don't know that he's going to play. I mean, Prochet, they've been playing without Ridley. So the question is DK. If DK's out, right, they'll need one more. They're not cutting Kinsey, I don't think so. Kinsey will still be there. So Prochet will be one. Then, do they go one deeper on the practice squad? And is that Restrepo? Look, Restrepo is not going to be a good special teams player. So, you also have to count if he has 3 catches for 50 yards. Well, is he missing a tackle or failing to chase his guy down on special teams? And does that hurt them there? You have to do a full equation thing there. But maybe they get something out of him. I don't know, but that doesn't mean they would have gotten something out of him 3 weeks ago or 6 weeks ago. More power to him. It might be time to put him out there, but this idea that he's going to get 100 yards in his first game that everybody has is just preposterous. First off, they're not going to throw it to him that much. He's going to be the 4th or 5th receiver, and he's going to play only the snaps that Kinsey plays at the end if everybody's hurt.
I don't believe that there's anything to lose here. So I can't sit here and say, well, you've got to play the safer player or he's better on special teams. I'm just more curious. Like, this is not like Occam's razor is that he's just, everyone in the organization agrees that he's not good enough. That's it. Now, is everyone in the organization wrong? It's possible. It seems unlikely though. That's all.
It's possible. Also, if everyone in the organization is collectively wrong, that he is
not a great organization of decision makers, enough, to be fair,
but also not a good organization at deployment. So if they've been wrong at not calling him up, what are the odds that a team that's missed on him in terms of calling him up is all of a sudden going to have him up and then deploy him spectacularly?
I'm not sure why Tez Johnson is getting a lot of talk in the comment section though. I know
Johnson like 5'3".
Well, he fell. He is very, very small, but he's a speedster, and he fell to the 7th round. So I guess maybe that like projected 3rd rounder falls to the late picks or whatever. I guess is maybe what everyone's doing. But he plays for an offense that is really dynamic. He plays for a quarterback who is I think way better than anyone wants to give him credit for in Baker Mayfield. And I think he's fast. He's very, very fast. He's not big. I think if he caught a lot of passes, Tez Johnson would get beaten around. Xavier Restrepo is the opposite player. He's a slow, thick player, which the thickness might help him in the slot, but we'll see. Open is open. Yeah, he's starting now because they have no other options with Evans and Godwin.
I'll say this about Restrepo. I didn't watch detailed film on him. I watched highlighty film on him. He was running wide open all the time when he was catching balls at Miami. Like, I was wondering, like, if there were instructions for the opponents not to cover him. He is not going to have space like that against anybody the Titans play.
Right. No question about that. All right. Anything else on roster depth that you want to get to? You feel good about this? We can talk about my stadium review here real fast.
Yeah.
We can do that. All right.
I've been to MetLife several times.
PaulKarski.com for all your great coverage of your Titans needs. Not very expensive. It's like half a beer at Titan Stadium, so make sure you go check out PaulKarski.com. Sinkers Beverages, a place you can get all that great beer. Nashville for your a story about old Nashville and the craft beer scene that was created out of thin air here. The history of it, the unlikely characters. It's a really good story. We worked really hard on it. I hope you like it. Chris Chamberlain is the premier food writer in our city, and he was my partner on that. So make sure you check out Nashville with an M. Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, of course. We always love them. Almost Michelin star barbecue joint, the only barbecue joint in town that was even recommended by Michelin. So go check out Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. All right, so I knew this about the stadium. I've obviously seen it on television before and et cetera. So I knew it was located in a giant sea of parking lots. But there is, I think, and maybe this is like the European soccer fan in me, the Red Sox, Fenway Park, Wrigleyville kind of thing. But I do know that former chief development officer of Nashville, Bob Mendez, who we've had on our other shows a bunch, and I've talked to him a lot about this, his vision for the area around new Nissan Stadium is that of Wrigleyville to some degree. That's where he grew up. He's from Chicago. And in theory, that's a really awesome idea. I don't know how close they're going to get, but I think it is important that when I went to MetLife, that I learned in person all of the things I don't want Nissan Stadium to be. Number one, it is completely characterless. There is no character. There's no charm. It is a concrete and metal structure with nothing inside, nothing outside that gives it anything special, unique, historic, nothing. There's nothing there. And I just walking around, I was like, this is even worse than I expected. Now, I kind of knew that going in, but it's worse. And then it's obviously in a swamp in New Jersey. No disrespect, but that is what it's sitting in, basically, a swamp in New Jersey. In a parking lot and like an old dilapidated mall next door. Like there is nothing appealing about this place whatsoever. And then you get into it and I don't know what the press entrance is like for you, Paul, but like it is so unintuitive to go around and to get from section to section, just to go from place to place. There were like 12 of us and we were sitting in two different places and it was almost like, just where are we going in here? Oh, we got to go around this way and then we got to go up this way and then around this side. It's like illogically laid out for fans. There is no charm. There's no character. It's in a swamp in a parking lot in New Jersey. I am hopeful that the architectural designs of the new Nissan Stadium, which are designed a lot in the upper levels for families to have lots of space, to kind of see the city and to see downtown and to have this big glass area, to have what I think is the most important part, which is the area where Nissan Stadium currently sits, turned into like a green space and park area that's going to kind of view the city attached to the stadium, I think will be critical. And I know you've been to Stamford Bridge at Chelsea in London. Like the way Europeans do soccer is no cars. No cars. Now, I know that's not reasonable in America, but we have to build the stadium around the neighborhood. And that was the goal of Metro when they designed the area around Nissan Stadium. I have been skeptical to Bob Mendez's face on an interview. I said, how do you guarantee that that's going to happen? And he's like, well, we have to illustrate that as our goal, put that goal on paper, and then go about executing that goal. And I'm like,
well,
okay.
they're not building it around the neighborhood. They're building a neighborhood around it.
Right.
And that's what they like to say. Burke Nihill has said the same thing about this
Yeah.
Wrigleyville thing. And I tell them, don't use Wrigleyville as the example, because that's a very natural thing. Wrigley and Fenway are in the middle of neighborhoods. You're creating a neighborhood. You're like the Battery in Atlanta, which is by all accounts a great place. I haven't been there, but they've created like a thing around the stadium, which is great, but it's fake. It's not a ballpark that emerged in the middle of a neighborhood. You can't do that anymore. Now it's the other way around. You create a ballpark and then you build a neighborhood around it. It's the next best thing. But I mean, you can't be shocked that MetLife is in the middle of nowhere. Arrowhead is in the middle of nowhere. Buffalo is in the middle of nowhere. SoFi, which is the best stadium in the country, is in the middle of nowhere. There are two kinds of American stadiums, ones that are on the waterfront, kind of in the city, where parking is a more of a hassle, and you get the skyline and all of that stuff. Pittsburgh's PNC baseball
Baltimore
stadium is the best one
Yeah.
in America, in my estimation. And there are ones that are like Arrowhead, which has a lot of character and a lot of history, but it's outdated, but it's in the middle of a parking lot.
Right. So Bustin says, I feel like our stadium will have no soul. And that's really what I'm trying to get at here. I don't expect them to recreate Fenway or Wrigleyville. I think it's good to have that as your like back of your mind kind of guiding vision, right? Like, or Battery in Atlanta or whatever. I think that's smart. I think it's pie in the sky. And again, I knew like the building itself is not like old. Like the MetLife is a new-ish building. Like it's not an old building. So like the actual functionality of the building is actually like the escalators are nice and the seats are nice and like it's a new building. It's not trashy, but the whole vibe is like the most disgusting parts of American sports fandom, in my opinion. And it's not that so my thinking coming back from it, and the number one thing was, and you'll appreciate this, which is we were walking out and we're just like, this is where the World Cup final is going to be held. Like that kind of pissed me off.
Well, is the party outside going to be sufficient? And is the party in New York going to get rich people, efficiently from Times Square or wherever to MetLife, which is 6 miles as the crow flies, but a lot further as the bus drives, is the question. And in terms of like the logistics of the inside of MetLife, which talked about being a little complicated, SoFi is incredibly complicated like that. I hope the new Nissan Stadium is simpler. I think it will be based on what we've seen.
Yeah.
Also, the other thing, like somebody was talking to me, somebody anti-stadium was talking about, the flood plan and all of that. This is no longer a riverfront stadium. I mean, Nissan Stadium was technically, the current one is technically up against the river. Now this stadium is up against the highway. It's a stadium away from the river. I don't think you're going to think of it as up against the river. It'll be interesting once the current stadium's imploded and you get a sense. But it's a decent walk from the river to the stadium, the new stadium now.
So Daniel, here's the thing. I don't quote me on this, but I want to say there's a really small area of land in that what we call the UDO, which is the IDA, the initial development area or something like that, I think is what it's called, which is like the first 30 acres, which includes the Titan Stadium. I think there's a very small portion, PK, that is not technically in a floodplain. Don't quote me on this, but I believe that's where the new stadium has been built. The rest of that area, I believe, is technically in a floodplain legally, which requires different infrastructure upkeep and costs. That's why there's a huge argument with Oracle down on the north side, and there's a huge argument with TPAC, which is supposed to go in right there next to the stadium. This is an interesting one, though, from Daniel, which says, I'm worried that the new stadium village could mess up tailgating for fans, which is right now the only highlight of the day. So
there is no tailgating.
Well, but this is what I remember going to the Ravens home playoff game, like 2008. Did they host a playoff game against the Ravens? I think
maybe,
and they lost maybe. I remember us like setting up shop in what is now like the La Quinta Inn right there, which was like an old beat up parking lot. And you could just pull up and park for almost free. And there were Ravens fans everywhere and Titans fans everywhere. And we were just like kind of just having fun tailgating. I was fairly young, so we're all drinking, having a good time. And at that time, at that place in my life, I thought, oh, this is a great tailgate. I now, and maybe it's just because I'm old, maybe because I have more college football in my blood or European soccer in my blood now. I don't know. But like, I want to know what Daniel means by mess up the tailgating, because if you're talking about a big, giant parking lot, a big flat parking lot with a bunch of cars in it and some light poles with some numbers on it,
That's dead.
That's awful. That's not good tailgating. What's great tailgating is like when we tailgate over on, I shouldn't say this to anybody, but when we go to Titan Stadium for any event, we tailgate on the east side of the river. Because there's a park right there where you can set up and play football, and you know what I mean? Like, it's got more to it than just a slab of concrete. Notre Dame Stadium, half of it's really nice because it's Touchdown Jesus and it's the Notre Dame campus. The other half is just this expansive, large, giant, flat parking lot. It's got no charm and character. And I don't want that to happen on the piece that faces downtown from the new stadium.
Oh, it won't. It's
supposed to be a park and a green area and all that other stuff. And if that's the case, I think with some architectural elements, with ease of use in and out of the stadium, I think with the views that everyone's going to have from all the different first, second, and third level atriums and balconies of the city itself, I think they're doing all the things right so far.
It'll be nice, but how do you get there? Like, and it'll be nice during the week and everything. But going there pregame, you pack up a picnic basket. You're not going to be able to hook up your grill to your truck and take it there and do what you're used to doing. And I'm not in favor of a big parking lot either, but it takes a big mindset switch. Now, my understanding is what they ultimately want to do with this Wrigleyville, which I don't like the expression is,
I know what you mean.
Basically going to have like a half mile in each direction from the stadium of shops and Wrigleyville stuff and restaurants and all of that. And it'll be kind of a new experience. And they want you more to be at a restaurant or on a patio or doing something there. You're going to spend your money there instead of bringing your own food. And along that half mile in each direction, there will be parking decks and stuff attached to these restaurants and venues and shops and stuff, and it'll amount to decent amount of parking. Or if you want to do more traditional parking, you're going to park on the other side of the river and you're going to walk across that bridge, but it's going to be more of a walk because the stadium isn't up against the river.
Right. And again, you know this because you've been to these places in Europe, but like paying to drink at a pub or taking public train, like my daughter and I took the train, which is right there by MetLife. We took the train. It took us like 4 minutes to get to Secaucus. We jumped on like a really nice train that dropped us off in Penn Station in like 10 minutes. It took us like 15 minutes to get from like Rutherford, New Jersey to like Midtown Manhattan. And it cost us like $8 or whatever total, $9 total. So like I'm just a huge proponent of that. And I know that like old me loves like pull up the back of the truck, get the grill going. Let's cook some brats. Let's throw a football around the parking lot. And I just think that I've just evolved beyond that now, that like I think of going to this new, like if you want to do a whole like a parking garage where it's just like on one block and you can get a lot of those cars with grills and stuff kind of all like in one place and you kind of keep the footprint small. I could see that being all right. Let's do it because some people want to do that. But so far, I think the things that I hated about Sunday in New York at this game, I think we are going to avoid the main things, which is giant concrete parking lot all around. It's going to be hotels and businesses and shops and everything. Ease of smart in and outs for fans inside the building. I think they're doing that. I think the building is designed with some character. I know it's kind of a square, but I think it's going to have more architectural character than you realize. MetLife is just like I don't know. It's like it wants to be the Stadium of Lights or whatever that one is in Madrid or whatever the stadium in Madrid is. And it's like, it's not, it doesn't look like it.
Nissan might look like an office building.
It might. I could see the squareness of it all looking a little, I don't know.
And the other thing is, if you go to eat at these shops and everything, once they're open, the taxes at these shops and stuff might be exorbitant because that's a big part of funding the stadium. So, hey, I want to go eat a pizza before the game. It's a $35 pizza.
I don't think they can change the tax rate. I think they're recapturing a percentage of it. I think they have increased the taxes on hotels and motels, though, by 1%. But that's not for us. That's not for locals. That's just for tourists, PK.
They're going to identify you at the well. Yeah,
I'm not kidding.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, the hotel tax has gone up by 1% for sure.
Yeah, but if you and your wife decide to go stay at the hotel there, they're not going to identify you as a local and not charge you the hotel tax.
No. And I think the last time I stayed in a hotel in downtown Nashville was my wedding night. Actually, it was about 10 years ago.
Please spare us the tale.
Nobody wants to hear about that. We ended up on Broadway with like 12 people, like,
You're telling us about it, and you said you weren't going to tell us.
It was a good time. All right. For all you in the comments, Clinton and Forrest and Matt and Jabari and Daniel and Bustin and Ed and Andrew and Sam and Mike and everybody else, C. Rich, Ryan, we do appreciate all of you guys for being a part of the show. Thank you so much for listening. Please check out Nashville. Please check out paulkarski.com. Check out all the other great shows across the network covering the Titans and everything else in this city, which all seems to be going great for every sports fan in town. Other than that, thank you guys.
How about Vandy?
Vandy's great. They belong in the playoff, everybody. They belong in the playoff. All right. Thanks for listening. Share the show. 5 stars. All that great stuff. Thumbs up. Notifications turned on. For PK, I'm Braden. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time.